what license, does an artist have, a Hasidic artist have, or it comes down to halacha and you should ask a rav before you do anything, and how do they fit in together?
I think the artist should push the envelope. But when the rabbi pushes back, he should pull back. I don't think a person can be involved in this, and his interest is L'Shem Shamayim. If you don't care about the Eibishter, then this question is not a question. If an artist's concern is to create music and to create art and to create dance and to create food and create fashion, that's going to be Zer Kelim unveiled, that's going to make Hashem more beautiful, I don't think it's the artist's job to worry about that question. I think it's the artist's job to include in the decision making another person whose job it is to keep the fences.
To keep checks.
It's two worlds. I have students that are involved in various projects. Former students involved in all kinds of projects. And maybe I shouldn't say this on the air, but they've come, Rabbi, we want to have a rabbi on our committee. And they're doing creative projects, and they're doing controversial things, a lot more controversial than art. Trust me, these are social engineering kinds of things within the community and in the schools and for adults, for children. I don't want to go into particulars. And they say, Rabbi, we want you to be our official rabbi on board. I say, I don't want to be your rabbi, because I'm going to be a rabbi, I'm going to shut you down. If something that I don't like, I'll tell you. I think
so better that they should keep doing it?
They should do it, and they should consult. The rabbi, in other words, one of the things about religious people is that we have this notion that everything we do is religious, and it's not true. It's supposed to be, but it's not. If you ate like the Apter of, your food would be holy. Otherwise, your food is food.
Right.
But there's a halacha that says how a yid eats. And the same is true with many, many things. There are things that are kodesh, and there are things that are choil. There are things that we do that are holy, and there are things that we do that are ordinary. But in the life of a Jew, it's chulin al tadas kodesh. Even the most ordinary thing has the purity and the holiness. But there is a separation. There's a very big difference between an artist and a school teacher, a malamed, who's teaching children Torah.
Right.
Can't create new Torah. Has to teach the Torah that God gave.
Right.
And even there's the whole question of the creativity in the classroom. But an artist is an artist, and he should do what artists are supposed to do. But he should understand that he cannot allow himself to go off by himself, because he's going to walk away from his endeavor, assuming that his endeavor is to create art that's going to bring God to the world, that's going to bring the precious stone, which is the base of the king's crown, to the whole world. You can dilute your art to the extent that it stops being what you meant for it to be in the first place. But the artist does what the artist does. The mashpia does what mashpia does. And they argue, they fight, they don't always get along. And the truth is someplace between the two of them. That's what I think. Now, and of course, if an artist is looking to push the envelope, if an artist is looking really to rebel, and he's trying to get away with it and to sell his art, I am not going there. That's a whole nother kettle of fish. I mean, there's many people in our community who, for various reasons, are dissatisfied, and they would like to make revolution. We're not about revolution. We're not about revolution. We're not perfect, but we're not about revolution, because in most cases, when you make revolution, what you did was destroy. And what created is yet to be seen.
Right.
And too many people know what they don't like, but they don't have a clue what they like. And they just, Mendel Futterfass used to say, what's a revolution? Kill all the leaders. And what do you do next? We'll figure it out later. and you look in America, look at our last 50, 75 years, all this cultural revolution. So frequently, the cultural revolution and the social revolution was defined by things we didn't like. But we didn't replace it with anything
of substance
that has guidelines, that has parameters. that has rules. It's just, this is bad, and therefore you have nothing. That's not revolution, that's destruction. That's churban. And Americans are free people. Americans can say whatever they wish. So all of the people who are dissatisfied, they go on the internet and they protest and they claim it. And you know what? They're often right. They're often right. I'm not saying they're wrong. The question is, what's the solution?
Right.
And to be a troublemaker isn't a solution. To be a troublemaker is breaking the old. Sometimes the old has to be broken, but far less often, and to a far lesser degree than the revolutionary thinks. So that artist, what can I tell you? It's unfortunately,
you're saying you have to have a point of
if
departure.
If your concern
to serve God,
to use the creative arts in your worship of God and to bring God to other people, you have a conflict. And I think the best way to deal with that conflict is to divide the roles. You do your piece, and you have someone look over your shoulder who's understanding of the fact that there is a space between art and the Shulchan Aruch, and he leaves you that space, which is not the line is here.
And from the Rebbe's perspective, is it about the artists creating the art for themselves, is their own avodas Hashem, or is it about impacting others?
I can't imagine the Rebbe ever seeing anything that anybody ever does that's not about impacting others. The Rebbe turned the tables around. Your relationship with God is determined by who you bring to God, which is so antithetical to the tradition, and it drives people crazy. But that's the position. If you want to be close to Hashem, bring someone else closer. So this is true of the creative arts as well. In other words, 100 years ago, that may have been a question. But if you're a Chabadnik today, your use of your creative arts to bring yourself close to Hashem is determined by it bringing other people closer to Hashem. And you know what? I actually understand it. It's not just about being a martyr, but putting other people ahead of yourself. It's about clarity. One of the most difficult places, to be honest, is with yourself. But it's much easier to be honest with somebody else. So your honesty to somebody else actually motivates a greater self of personal honesty. So in being a mashpia, in inspiring other people to closer to God, you find a more genuine path to God yourself. So in other words, what the Rebbe is saying is not only, there's a fire burning and we have to save lives, so you have to put someone else before yourself. It's actually, in America, in the world in which we live, one of the most sure ways to sustain, to maintain that we don't flutter away from the right path without even realizing that we fluttered away.